Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take your stack of information and distill it into something truly insightful and memorable for you.
That's right.
Today, we're really diving deep into those catastrophic floods in Texas. We're using the reports you shared with us, focusing on that unfolding tragedy, especially around the summer camp.
Yeah, we've looked through reports from AP News, Georgia Public Broadcasting, CNN, among others. And our goal today really is to help you cut through the noise.
Right.
Understand the immediate human impact, the environmental factors, and just the incredible community response.
So you'll get a real sense of what happened, why it hit so hard, and what it means for everyone involved.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The sources you shared, they paint a picture of something almost unbelievably sudden, severe. I mean, the speed is striking. When and where did this actually hit?
Well, this catastrophic flash flooding, it struck the Texas Hill Country, specifically Kerr County.
Yep.
It started Friday, July 4th, 2025, and just kept going into Saturday the 5th. The absolute core of it was around the Guadalupe River.
Affecting towns like Hunt, Ingram.
Carrelville, yeah, they're where it hit hard. Very hard.
So what made this flood so incredibly destructive? It wasn't just the rain, was it?
Well, no. I mean, what's fascinating and frankly terrifying is the intensity and the speed.
Speed, right.
The sources are calling it a rain bomb. You know, the National Weather Service, they predicted maybe 3 to 6 inches.
Which is still a lot of rain.
It is. But instead, they got nearly a foot of rain. Some places 10, 12 inches. One spot even recorded 14.98 inches.
Wow.
And this fell in just a few hours, overnight.
So that Guadalupe River, how much did it rise? The numbers seem staggering.
They really are. The river, it was sitting at about 3 feet, normal level.
Okay.
Then it surged. It rose by an astonishing 26 to 27 feet.
26 feet.
Yeah, and get this, in about 45 minutes.
45 minutes.
Yeah.
That's almost impossible to picture. Half a foot a minute, practically.
It's hard to wrap your head around. And eventually it crested at 39 feet or even more.
What?
This kind of rainfall rate, like Hunt got 6.5 inches in just 3 hours. That's considered a 1 in 100 years event.
Meaning statistically very unlikely in any given year, like a 1% chance.
Precisely. And, you know, these rare events, they really force us to look at our assumptions about weather, about infrastructure, especially in a place they already call Flash Flood Alley.
Right, so it's the amount of rain, the incredible speed, and you mentioned the geography, that amplified it.
Exactly. It's called Hill Country for a reason, and also Flash Flood Alley. You've got these winding hills, and the river runs over limestone.
So the water doesn't soak in much.
Very little. There's not much soil. So you get rapid runoff, incredibly fast-rising floodwaters. The topography basically acts like a funnel.
Making it extremely dangerous.
Hugely dangerous and unpredictable.
And as the power of this water became clear, the human cost started to emerge.
Yeah.
The initial reports just heartbreaking, especially the fatalities, the missing, so many children involved.
Yeah, it's the hardest part of this. The death toll climbed very quickly. Friday, initial report said 24 dead. By Saturday morning, authorities were confirming at least 27 dead. And that included 9 children.
9 children.
Yeah. The Kerr County Sheriff, Larry Letha, he specified 18 adults, 9 children. And at that time, 6 adults and 1 child were still unidentified.
Just awful. And beyond the confirmed deaths, the reports about missing people, especially from the camp.
That's the other really agonizing part. Sources were saying at least 23, maybe up to 27 girls from Camp Mystic. They were unaccounted for.
Camp Mystic, the all-girls summer camp.
That's the one. And CNN also confirmed, tragically, that the mother of a 9-year-old camper there, Janie Hunt, confirmed her daughter had passed away.
Oh, no. It's just devastating. But amidst all this horror, there are also these stories of rescue, right? Incredible bravery.
Absolutely. It's a huge counter-narrative. Over 850 people were rescued or evacuated.
850?
Yeah. And many of those rescues needed helicopters because the terrain was so difficult.
Right, the hill country.
Exactly. Initially, the number reported was 237 rescued. Teams worked right through the night. They described it as a very harsh environment, pulling people from trees, other high spots. Really incredible odds.
Saving lives, clearly. But the emotional toll on the community, what did the sources say about that? The waiting, the uncertainty?
It's profound. You had reunification centers like the elementary school in Ingram, and they became these scenes of just intense relief for some, but agonizing waiting for others.
I can only imagine.
The reports shared these really poignant images. You know, a young girl in a Camp Mystic t-shirt just sobbing in her mother's arms. Another parent, Tanya Powell, desperately waiting for news of her 21-year-old daughter.
God, the waiting must be torture.
It really is. Texas Representative Chip Roy, he talked about the emotional devastation, but also the heroic stories of rescue. He mentioned a schoolmate of his own kids found safe after hours on a mattress in the floodwaters.
So it's this awful mix of despair and hope and resilience all at once.
Exactly. Playing out in real time.
Let's maybe zoom in a bit more on Camp Mystic. It seems so central to this tragedy. What kind of place is it normally? And what exactly happened there?
Right, Camp Mystic. It's been around a long time, established 1926. It's a private, all-girls Christian summer camp. Usually hosts about 750 campers.
Okay.
Its website, talks about providing a wholesome Christian atmosphere, helping girls develop character, self-esteem, friendships, spiritual growth. It's meant to be a haven, a cherished tradition for so many families.
It's a safe place.
Supposedly.
Right.
But the flood turned it into, well, one former counselor called it a horror story.
Mm-hmm.
The camp itself was described as completely destroyed.
Destroyed.
Cabins literally washed away. And tragically, the younger campers' cabins, they were situated right along the riverbanks.
Oh, no. So they would have been hit first and hardest.
Exactly. The first to be impacted.
That's just awful to think about. Did we hear directly from any campers? Any firsthand accounts?
We did get one particularly powerful account, a 13-year-old Eleanor Lester. She was one of the older girls housed on higher ground they called Senior Hill.
Okay, so she was maybe a bit safer.
Relatively. She said she woke up suddenly around 1:30 a.m., thunder, water just pelting the cabin.
Must have been terrifying.
She described being evacuated by helicopter, wading through floodwaters. She saw rescuers stringing up a rope for girls to hold on to, crossing a bridge with water already up to their calves, their knees.
Wow.
She just said the camp was completely destroyed.
Yeah.
And really scary. Her mother, Elizabeth Lester, she expressed just profound relief for her own kids, but absolute heartbreak for others. She mentioned a friend's daughter, a counselor for the younger kids who was among the missing.
Hearing it directly like that, it really underscores that this is so much more than just property damage, isn't it? The emotional scars.
Oh, absolutely. And the Camp Mystic situation, it's not just about the physical loss. It really gives you insight into the unique vulnerabilities of these places we cherish, right? These institutions that exist in beautiful but sometimes risky natural settings.
Yeah, it makes you think.
It forces some tough questions, doesn't it? About balancing tradition, beauty, and the absolute need for safety, especially with weather getting more unpredictable.
Definitely.
There was Chloe Crane, a teacher, former counselor at Mystic. She shared how heartbroken she was, said she just cried hearing the news. She kept saying how Mystic is such a special place. Couldn't imagine the terror the counselors must have felt.
So for so many, this happy place is now just marked by immense sadness.
Immense sadness. And while some other nearby camps, Camp La Junta, Camp Waldemar, reported everyone's safe.
That's good news, at least.
It is. But Heart of the Hills, another girls' camp nearby, tragically lost its director and co-owner, Jane Ragsdale, in the flooding, though the camp itself wasn't in session.
Still, another loss for that community.
Yes, another blow.
So, given this scale, this very personal impact, what was the broader response from officials, from the community?
The response has been huge, deeply committed. It really shows how tight-knit this community is. Texas Governor Greg Abbott, he issued a disaster declaration right away, committed all state resources.
Good.
Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick made this public plea, asking Texans for on-your-knees kind of praying. Real urgency there.
Yeah.
And Sheriff Letha, he was adamant. He declared responders will not stop until every single person is found.
That's the commitment you need to hear.
Absolutely. You saw leaders like Kerrville Mayor Joe Herring Jr. thanking people for the support, but also warning, today will be a hard day, acknowledging the grief.
Right.
The city manager, Dalton Rice, described search teams working in really difficult terrain, pulling people from trees, high ground, just relentless effort.
And how are folks in the towns coping? You mentioned it's tight-knit.
Yeah. People like Kerrville City Council member Jeff Harris, they describe it just like that. Tight-knit community. Everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
Which means the pain just hits hard and it hurts.
It's personal for everyone.
Very personal. There's a resident from Hunt, Jerry Adams, lamenting the loss of local spots like Crider's. It's a rodeo and dance hall. Was celebrating its 100th anniversary this year.
Wow, a local institution.
Exactly. He called places like that the lifeblood of this community, and now he just said it's just nothing. It really hits the fabric of the community.
It's just devastating. And, this region, This isn't the first time it's faced something like this, is it? There's a history here.
No, it isn't. And that's a really important point about the area's vulnerability. The sources draw a direct line back to devastating storms in the summer of 1987.
1987, what happened then?
10 teenage campers died.
Yeah.
They were from a place called Pato Gold Christian Camp near Comfort. It's just east of Hunt.
Oh my God.
Their bus was swept away by the Guadalupe River, which back then also rose incredibly fast, about 29 feet.
Almost the same scale of river rise. History repeating itself, tragically.
It really underscores this consistent danger, the region's vulnerability to these intense weather events. And adding to the current worry, the National Weather Service warned about more rain coming.
Oh, great. Just what they need.
Right, up to 5 inches in isolated spots, which could just make the already saturated ground even more unstable, more flooding possible. Makes the ongoing search even more precarious.
Yeah, a really precarious situation. This whole deep dive, looking into the Texas floods, the Camp Mista tragedy, it just lays bare the sheer power of nature, doesn't it?
It really does.
And the immediate, just heartbreaking impact on people's lives, on entire communities. We've seen the incredible resilience of the first responders, but also the deep anguish of the families and those unique challenges of the hill country geography.
Yeah, and as the search and rescue continues, what really stands out, I think, is how this event, just like the one back in 87, it's a stark reminder, isn't it?
Of what?
Of that delicate balance between these cherished traditions like summer camps at beautiful places and the sheer unpredictable power of the environment they exist in.
That's a really good point.
It really makes you wonder, for communities living with both the beauty and the inherent risks of a place like Flash Flood Alley, how do they adapt? How do they prepare?
Not just for the next storm, but maybe for longer-term changes, too.
Exactly. What kind of measures can possibly ensure safety while still preserving the heart and soul of these traditions, these places that mean so much to people for future generations?
That's the critical question, isn't it? A lot to think about there.